Hi guys, welcome to today's reading session, and today we're going to be reading a book called Mission Cycle. So as usual, this will be on the Google Doc for you to access, so in the description if you click that link and find the book Mission Cycle for the 16th of July, you'll be able to access it, or it should be sent round to you by email and on the Facebook page. So if you could get the book up next to me and read along with us, that's perfect. And so what I'll start by doing is we'll read a few pages. I'll go over the pages, make sure we all understand, and then as usual I've got a couple of questions to make sure everyone knows what's going on. And yeah, I think it's quite a long book one today, so we'll read half today, and then when it's my turn again to do the session, we'll finish the other half. So I'll just, before we start, go over what the title means because you might not quite understand. So the title is Mission Cycle. So mission might be quite a hard word that we don't know. So the word mission is a goal, so something we want to do. So it might be a mission to climb a mountain, a mission to swim across the sea. It's a goal you want to achieve, something you want to do. And so cycle is like riding a bike. So the picture on the front, so this is our main character, and she's called Nori, and she's riding a bike. And so a bike, another word for riding a bike is cycling. So Nori's mission is to cycle, is to learn how to ride a bike. So that's what this book is all about. It's all about our main character, Nori, learning how to ride a bike. So I hope that all makes sense. So yeah, like I said, we'll start on the first page, and then after a couple of pages I'll go over it and make sure everyone understands. So this is page number 2. Is it morning already? Why didn't Ami or Abu wake me up? Did they forget I have school? Did they forget me? Where is everybody? And the next page. Lorraine, you woke up by yourself, Ami says. I cozy up to her. Why is everyone so serious? And how come Ami, Abu, Dadu, and Nani are watching TV in the morning? Ami, is it Sunday? I ask. Ami is a science teacher, and we usually walk to school together. No, Nori, school is cancelled today, she says. Oh, I say, acting as disappointed as I can. I'm secretly thrilled. I guess I'll just have to go to Wasim's to play, I say. Okay, so these 2 pages, we can see our main character Nori. So the book, so we read it as if Nori's writing the book. So Nori is talking about herself. So when she says I, she means herself. So Nori, she's a little girl, she's got school, and she wakes up and she doesn't understand, she's confused, she doesn't know what's happening. Because her Ami and Abu, and this is just another word for mum and dad. So Ami is mum and Abu is dad. So her mum and dad didn't wake her up, and she doesn't understand. She says, did they forget I have school? So if you forget something, you don't remember it. So did they not remember school? Did they forget to wake her up? Did they forget she has school? Did they forget her? And she says, where is everybody? Where are they? Because they should be with her. So she doesn't really understand what's happening. And the next page, so Noreen, that's Nori's full name. So her mum says, you woke up by yourself. So they didn't wake her up. And Nori cozies up to her. So if you cozy up to someone, is you hug them. So she goes over to her mum and she gives her a hug. That's what's happening. And Nori says, why is everyone so serious? So if you're being serious, it's the opposite, so very different to being happy. So if you're happy and joking and laughing, or you can be serious, so you might be sad or yeah, you're sad and serious, and it's a bad thing might have happened if you're being serious. And she also thinks it's a bit strange that Ami, Abu, Dadu, and Nani are watching TV in the morning. So they don't normally do this. This is not normal. So something's a bit different. And as well, Dadu and Nani, that's granddad and grandma, is who they are. And we can see the whole family in this picture here. And so Nori asks her mum, is it Sunday? Because if it was a Sunday, she wouldn't be going to school. And her mum, it says, is a science teacher. So they go to school together. But her mum says no, that school is cancelled today. So school isn't on today. Nori's not going to go to school. And Nori acts disappointed. So I'll try and explain this. So if we're talking about an actor in a film, they're pretending, they're acting, yeah. They're not really, they're playing a character, they're not really that person. So Nori is acting disappointed. So she's pretending to be sad that school is cancelled. But really, she says, I'm secretly thrilled. So secretly, so she's hiding it, but she's actually very happy that school is cancelled, is what's happening. So she acts disappointed. She says, "Oh no," but actually she's really happy because she says, "I guess I'll have to go play at Wasim's," and so she wants to go play at her friend's house instead of going to school. Okay, we'll go on to page 4. Wasim and I are both in the second standard, but in different classes. We have been neighbours since we were babies. We have spent many holidays playing, swinging from apple trees and shouting over the rose bushes until our families yelled at us. We have even invented 14 games together. He is my best friend and my best competitor. And the next page. Abu gives me some milk and chochwa bread. The bread is from Wasim's family bakery. It has a special touch, raisins. I love it. Nori, no use going over to Wasim's, Abu says. He left for Jammu with his Ami for a few days. Okay. So in these 2 pages, we learn who Wasim is. So Wasim is Nori's best friend, so her number 1 friend, her closest friend. And they're both in the same year at school, so they're the same age, but they're in different classes. And they've been neighbours since they were babies. So neighbours, when you live next door to each other. So you can see in the picture, they live next to each other since they were babies, so since they were very young. And they spend their holidays, so when they're not at school, they play together. And it says they swing from apple trees. So the apple trees, they hang onto the branches and they swing on the trees. And shouting over the rose bushes, so little plants of roses, they shout over them. They shout to each other, they talk to each other until their families yelled at them. So until their families got annoyed at them and they shouted at them, they told them off. And it says they've even invented, so they've made up, they've created 14 games together. So they've spent a lot of time together and they're really good friends. And Nori says, he's my best friend, so really good friend, and my best competitor. So they play against each other. They want to compete. They want to win. Yeah, so they're really good friends. She really likes Wasim. So the next page, Abu gives Nori a little snack, some food. She has some milk and some chochwa bread. And the bread is from Wasim's family bakery. So they own a bakery and they make bread. And it has a special touch. So a special touch would be something different in it, something really unique and special, yeah. And it's raisins, so it's a really nice bread, and Nori loves it. But Abu says, Nori, there's no use going over to Wasim's. He left for Jammu with his Ami for a few days. So, no use going over to Wasim. So, you shouldn't go over. There's no point. You don't need to. You shouldn't go over to Wasim's because he left. So, he's gone away to Jammu with his mum for a few days. So, it looks like Nori's not going to Wasim's to play. Okay, I've got a couple of questions just from this little bit, and then we'll read the next half of this bit. Okay, so the first question is, what do Ami and Abu mean? And look back at the book, you can pause the video if you want, and write down your answers, and I'll go over all the answers at the end. So what does Ami and Abu mean? Can you remember? And the next question, why does Nori not get woken up? Why does Nori not get woken up? And the last question, who is Wasim? Who is Wasim? Okay, so I think it's from the very first page. If we have a look, what does Abu and Ami mean? So if you remember, Ami means mum or mother, and Abu means dad or father. So it's just another word for mum and dad. The next question, why does Nori not get woken up? So yeah, if we look at the first page, page number 2, sorry, Nori doesn't know what's happening. She doesn't know why her mum and dad haven't woken her up, haven't gotten her out of bed. But it's because school is actually cancelled. Her mum tells her on page 3, says school is cancelled today, so she won't be going to school today. So that's why they don't wake her up, because school isn't on. And the last question, who is Wasim? So Wasim is Nori's best friend, and they've been neighbours, so they live next to each other, and they're really close friends, and they play lots of games together. But we actually learned that Wasim has gone away, so she can't go play with him. Okay, so I'll start the next half of this section. So we're on page number 6 now. The news looks scary today. Nanny raises the TV volume. Ami, Abu, Dadu, and Nanny have one of their silent talks. Ami raises her eyebrows until they are question marks. Abu shakes his head and sticks his lip out. Dadu spells out some letters softly. C-U-R-F-E-U. They all look worried. And next page 7. But why did Wasim go to Jammu? A few days ago, walking back from school, Wasim said we should both learn to ride the bicycle. Let's learn in 1 month and we can race to school, okay? Oh, maybe Wasim went to Jammu to learn cycling from his cousin Rafiq. How was I to learn to cycle now? Just then, Abu says he won't be going to the office. There are more guards on the street today, so my editor said I could work from home, Abu says. Abu is home, then I shouldn't waste a second. Abu, can you teach me to ride the new bicycle, please? Please, Abu. Okay. So these 2 pages, we learn a bit more about why Nori isn't going to school maybe. So this might help us understand that a bit. So Nori says the news looks scary today. There's something scary. It's frightening. It's worrying. It makes you nervous. So it's not good. The news doesn't look good. Um, and Nanny turns up the volume. She makes the TV louder, and she wants to hear what's happening. And Ami, Abu, Dadu, and Nanny have a silent talk. So silent is when you can't hear any noise, when there's no sound. So if they're silent talks, they're not wanting to let Nori hear what they're talking about. So they're talking, but they don't want Nori to hear what they're talking about. And Ami raises her eyebrows, so her eyebrows like this. So she might be shocked, she might be quite scared. And Abu shakes his head, so he's worried. And Dadu spells out some letters. So the letters, they spell curfew. So a curfew means that people, so if we look at the red on this picture here, this is the news and it says what's happening. So there's protests. So people are in the streets protesting. And that means the government have put in place a curfew. So people have to be back in their homes by a certain time. So in the evening, everyone has to be at home. You can't be out on the street. So this might be why that school is cancelled for Nori, because there's a curfew, because there's some protests. And it says they all look worried, so they're all nervous and scared. But not Nori. Nori's not thinking about the news, she's thinking about something else. So she's thinking, why did Wasim go to Jammu? So she says that Wasim and her had a plan. They were both going to learn how to ride the bicycle. They were going to learn and then race each other. So they were going to see who could get to school fastest. They were going to have a race. And Nori thinks that Wasim went to Jammu so he could learn to cycle from his cousin. And so she thinks, how am I going to learn now Wasim's gone? And Abu says he won't be going. So her dad says he won't be going to the office today. So he won't be going to work today because there are more guards on the streets. There's more police on the street. So his editor, his boss, says he can work from home. So he's going to be staying at home. He's not going to work. So Nori says, then I shouldn't waste a second. So she shouldn't wait any longer. She should start right away. And she asked Abu, can you teach me to ride the new bicycle, please? So they've got a new bicycle and she wants to know how to ride it. And so Abu is going to teach her. So next page 8 this is. Abu looks at me and says, of course, Nori, but eat your breakfast first. I chomp on it fast. Great milk and chochua bread, do your magic. Make me strong for mission cycle. Okay, oh yeah. Mission cycle day 1. The cycle is my Eid present from Abu and Ami. I clean it till it shines bright. Tring tring, I love the shrill bell. Abu. Nana says, Nori, why are you shouting? Abu has just walked out to see how things are. But Abu promised he would teach me to ride the cycle. Nanny puts her garden tools aside. Oh, cycle? I can teach you, she says. But Nanny, do you even know how to ride a bicycle? I ask. I was the fastest cyclist in my entire school, Nori, my girl. Now put your feet on the pedals, look straight at the wall and start pedaling. Okay. So page number 8, Abu says, of course, he will teach Nori how to ride the bicycle. But he says, eat your breakfast first. So eat your breakfast before we go cycling. and Nori chomps on it fast. So she eats it really quickly. She eats it really quick. And she says, "Oh, the milk and chocho bread, do your magic." So they're going to make her, give her magic powers, make her strong to cycle, make her strong for mission cycle. So for her goal to learn to cycle. And then this page. So it's day 1 of mission cycle. So the first day of her learning to ride a bike. And we learn that the bike is an Eid present from her mum and dad, so it's new. And she cleans it, so she washes it till it shines bright. So it's so clean, it's shining. So if there's something shining, if you put it in the light, it reflects off. It's so shiny and the light's so clean. And we even hear the bell. So on a bike, you have a little bell to tell people when you're coming, and it goes tring tring. And she says, "I love the shrill bell." So the sound is shrill. She loves it. And so she shouts, "Abu." She's shouting her dad because she wants him to teach her. But Nanny is like, "Why are you shouting? Stop shouting loudly." And Abu's just gone out. He's not here. So Abu promised he would teach Nori to learn how to ride the bike. So he promised, he said he would do something. He told her he would do it. But Nanny said, "I can teach you." So she puts her garden tools aside. So she's working in the garden. Maybe she's got a little spade in the garden to pull out plants, but she puts them aside and she's going to teach Nori. And Nori says, "But Nanny, do you even know how to ride a bike? Do you know how to ride a bike?" And Nanny says, yes, she says she was the fastest cyclist in her whole school. So she was the fastest in her school. So she tells Nori to put her feet on the pedals. So on the bike, put her feet on the pedals, look straight at the wall. So look straight, don't look side to side, look straight ahead and start pedaling. So move her feet like this. Okay, the last 2 pages. I looked, page 10 this is. I look at the wall in front of me, focusing on that one peach on the tree. Focus, focus, focus. Where is Nanny? As I turn to look back, the dam. Next page. I did not see that wall at all. Nanny comes running. "Nori, are you hurt?" I check. I am not, but I still feel like crying. "Cycling is hard, Nanny." "Nonsense," says Nanny. She plants a kiss on my forehead. "The first thing you have to remember about cycling is to keep looking ahead. The second thing is that falling is okay. It's how you learn." I get back on my cycle. Okay, so we'll finish there for this week. I'll go over these 2 pages and then we've got some more questions on the other half. Okay, so Nori starts cycling and she's looking at the wall in front of her and she's focusing. So she's focusing on that one peach. So on the one peach on the tree. So peach is a fruit and it's growing on the tree. So she's focusing, she's looking at that one peach on the tree. And she says, "Focus, focus, focus." So she keeps looking at that peach. But then she thinks, "Where is Nanny?" And she turns to look back. She looks behind her and the dam. So she's gone into the wall. She ran straight into the wall. She cycled into the wall. And Nori says, "I did not see that wall at all because she turned around, so she didn't see the wall in front of her." And Nanny comes running over. She says, "Nori, are you hurt?" I check. So she sees if she's hurt. She sees, does she hurt anywhere, but she's okay. She says she's not hurt, but she still feels like crying. So she feels sad, yeah? Cycling is hard, it's difficult. "Nonsense," says Nanny. So nonsense means that's not true. It's not hard, Nanny says. And she plants a kiss on her forehead. So she kisses her on her forehead. So gives her a little kiss on her forehead. And she says, this is Nanny's advice for cycling. She says the first thing you have to remember, so the number one thing about cycling is to keep looking ahead. So not to turn around, but to keep looking ahead. And the second thing is that falling is okay. So it's okay to fall off the bike onto the floor, because that's how you learn. And Nori gets back on her bike, back on her cycle. Okay, so that's the end of the book there. And I've got a couple of questions for this half of the book, and then we'll finish for today, I think. So, number one, what is happening on the news? What is happening on the news? So have a look back at the book. You can pause the video and have a read back. What's happening on the news? And the second question, why is Nori sad that Wasim has gone away? So Nori's sad because her friend Wasim has gone away. Why? And number three, who teaches Nori to ride the bike? And last, what happens when Nori is first learning to ride the bike? Does it go well or does it go badly? Okay, so question number one on page 6, if we have a look, it says, so we learn on the red thing along the bottom of the picture, we learn that there's protests. And so the people protesting, they're demonstrating about something, and there's a curfew, so it means people have to be home by a certain time. So that's what's happening on the news, and it's making everyone scared. They're a bit worried about it, and it means that Nori's school is cancelled for the day. The second question, why is Nori sad that Wasim has gone away? So Nori is sad because her and Wasim was going to learn to ride bikes together. So this is on page 7. Yeah. So it says Wasim said we should both learn to ride the bicycle. So they were going to learn together, but now Wasim's gone away, so Nori's has to learn on her own. Number 3, who teaches Nori to ride the bike first? So if we remember, on page 7, Nori actually asks Abu, she asks her dad if he will teach her, and he says, of course. But on page 9, we see Nori is shouting for her dad, but he's gone out, he's not at home. And so Nanny actually is the first one who teaches Nori how to ride her bike. So it's Nanny is the answer. And then the last question, what happens when Nori first learned to ride her bike? So on page 10, we see it's going well, she's pedaling along, she's pedaling, but then she turns around, she looks behind her, and she goes into a wall. So she hits a wall and she falls off her bike onto the floor. So it doesn't go too well the first time Nori learns to ride a bike, but I think we'll see from the second half of the book that maybe she learns, and we'll see what happens. Okay, so thank you for watching, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this book. I'll see you in a couple of weeks to read the second half of this, but I think Catherine's going to do the next one. So we'll see you then. Thank you.